Hey everybody, it's Mike for Faraday Research. It's Sunday afternoon. It's raining outside, kind of crummy weather. I haven't made a video in about a week. Yeah, but I have been busy. I wanted to throw a little video out here. It's more theory stuff than anything. And before we get into the video, if you give me a thumbs up at the end of the video if you like what you're seeing. Also, don't forget to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, if you haven't subscribed to the channel. I have just shy of 300 videos now, and I have over 2,500 subscribers to the channel, so the channel is doing excellent, and I'm getting a lot of views and getting a lot of interaction with people. But the last week I've been extremely busy with work, life stuff. But I've also, in the free time, or the very little free time I've had in the last week, I've been doing nothing but theory, exploration in all realms. And I came across a really good video. It was actually an interview done with Eric Dollard, and he's talking about that our perception of what a volt is, what an amp is, and what EMF is all wrong. And we have to understand the relationship between the three things. Okay? So, all three of these things are the same thing. Okay? Electrical theory, they'll tell you, no, they're not. But according to Eric Dollard and his interview that I seen, they are the same thing. And this is how his perception is, and I actually really believe this is true as well. That's why I'm doing this little video. So voltage, what is voltage? The actual real definition of voltage is the amount of power that is consumed by an electrical circuit. That is the proper definition of what a volt is. Amperage, it is the rate of the voltage going through an electrical circuit. That is amperage, or current. EMF is the electromotive force, which is created by the voltage and the amperage combined create EMF. So voltage with a voltage alone creates amps automatically. So the higher the voltage, the higher of the constant voltage, or current, of what is created at that time of the voltage discharge. So if you're using 12 volts, say for sake of argument, an example, say you produce 12 volts, you get 1 amp, which we know is not correct. But anyways, if you got 12 volts, you got 1 amp. Now, if you got 24 volts, you got 2 amps. Naturally, the higher you go in potential voltage, the current increases automatically without any other force involved. It automatically creates current, or amperage. Okay? Now, if you got voltage, you got magnetism going through a wire. The second it goes through a wire, you're creating an electromagnetic field. Well, if you got an electromagnetic field, you got EMF, electromotive force, which means you can do work. So if you got voltage, you got amperage. If you got amperage going through an inductor, you have electromotive force. Therefore, you are able to do work. These three things are all the same thing. And I think that's what he was trying to get at. Now, this is definitely a good thing for discussion. And I really honestly believe that Dollard is correct by saying this, that these three things are essentially the same thing. The second you introduce voltage through a wire, I can do this with 2 hands. All right. You have now an electromotive force going through the wire in a spiral motion, because we all know electricity travels around the inductor, okay, around the wire. That is fact, okay? Well, if you have spinning electricity around an inductor, well, now you have magnetism. Now magnetism is present. And if you have magnetism present, you have electromotive force. It's all the same thing. So that's why my Adams motor generator, I'm running off of 50 volts. Because the amount of potential amperage and EMF created by the voltage allows me to do what I'm doing with that motor. You cannot do it with 12 volts. It's impossible. The potentials will never be there. It all starts with the volt. All right? It all starts with the volt. So if you're building pulse motors, if you're building Adams motors, whatever, even MRA devices, anything of the sort, it starts with the voltage. If you got voltage, you got amperage. If you got amperage, you got EMF. If you got EMF, you have the ability to do power and create magnetism. It's all the same thing. All the same. So try to wrap your head around that. Try to understand this. Because the reason why I understand this to be true is why what I'm doing with that Adams motor in the corner over there. Without this understanding, what I'm doing with that Adams motor is technically impossible. You cannot do it at 12 volts. You have to go 40, 50, 60, 100 volts input. If you got 100 volts input, you got a lot of potential amperage right there ready to go without any extra work. You put it through an inductor, you got a huge amount of EMF, and to boot, if you got EMF, you got magnetism through your inductor, your wire. So as you increase the potential voltage, your EMF increases exponentially in size. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? And then when you shut it off, now you got the collapse. Now you got it going to collapse. Say this is the coil itself. It's going to collapse to the center of the coil, all right? And the center of a coil is called the Bloch wall, okay? So what happens is that force is now going to what I would call 0 point, because that's where the Planck energy is, okay? And what happens is when it hits the Planck, it can't go past it. That is 0. And because of that, it can only go one direction, and that is out. This is where you're getting your over unity, okay? Because you cannot go past 0. 0 is the Planck, or the smallest particle vacuum fluctuation that we know of. So try to wrap your head around that. So it's not this, the coil makes a difference and all these different little variables make a difference, but it all comes back to the volt input. Why do you think Tesla was working with 30, 40, 60, 100,000 volts? Is because he knows if he modulates that at a high frequency, he is accessing the 0 point. That's why his Tesla coils can produce up to 2,500 amperes, which is an enormous amount of power. So, and that's also why he's able to make sparks that go 6 feet in the air. It takes 12,000 volts. Try to wrap your head around this one. To make a spark jump 12,000 volts, 1 inch, it takes 12,000 volts to make a spark jump 1 inch. He was sparking 6 feet. So do the math on that one and try to wrap your head around that one. That is mind-boggling. So if you want success in your over unity devices, you want to get closer and closer to the Planck scale. The higher you go in voltage, the closer you're getting to the Planck or the 0 point energy field. You're basically rebounding off it. If you do it correctly, you'll have no heat. Okay? No heat. If you're doing it correctly. If you have heat, That means you have hysteresis. That's why Tesla and Steinmetz were on the forefront of this technology. And the second you get hysteresis going through your inductor, that increases your resistance in the circuit, and your circuit dies. So just a little video here just to kind of get a new concept in front of you guys. Try to wrap your head around what I've said. Do some research on it. But I'm telling you, everybody, please do yourself a favor. Stay away from 12 volts. Start going up to 25, 40, 60, 100 volts DC. Your magnification of over unity is going to go up way higher. That is really honestly the key. And obviously modulating it at a frequency, that is also going to get you closer to that over unity effect. The MRA device did it. My Adams motor device shows it. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say in this video. So take consideration, do some research. That's basically what I've been doing all week, is trying to understand the concept of what I've been doing for the last year on my Adams motor, and now it's kind of really apparent why I'm getting the huge energy efficiencies and over unity effects of my motor. It all starts with the volt. You got to have enough voltage going into your system. If you have too big of an inductor or too big of a coil, your system is going to get to the point where you're going to start creating heat. And if you got hysteresis going on in your system, you're killing the dipole. And I think that's the key to it. Have enough potential voltage going through your inductor that's going to create cold electricity, no heat. Modulate it at the proper frequency. Use the piezos, and you'll get over unity. It's that simple. But yet, it seems so hard for people to wrap their head around this concept. But anyways, everybody have a great weekend. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Don't forget, all the links are in the description below if you want to become a patron and support my channel. I'll be doing some new experiments. I think a direction I do want to take. The Adams motor is still on the table. I'm still working on that. I'm working on other concepts that are going to be merged to the Adams motor to make it even better. And I'm really been studying a lot of Wilhelm Reich and his orgone energy. I pretty much am coming to the conclusion the orgone energy is the Planck, or the vacuum fluctuation energy, the life force energy, he calls it. I think what he's talking about and what 0 point energy is, it's the same thing. And I think these accumulators that he was building was able to harness this orgone energy, or 0 point. Now, the question is, if this is true, how can we use it to make electricity? And I've been working on some experiments and also some of the theory what Wilhelm Reich was doing. He was powering electric motors using his orgone generator. So if I could perfect what he was doing back 60 years ago, 70 years ago, there could be a real big breakthrough in this science. So anyways, have a great weekend. Leave your comments and questions below, and we'll see everybody soon.